Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by the founder of your Auris Tech, Kim Antoniou. How are you today, Kim?
Oh, very well, thank you, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for being here on this, like we said before, very cold, very wintry
Very
Monday
foggy.
morning, very foggy, very British, which we love. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And let's just sort of throw ourselves into this conversation with just getting an understanding of what the business is, what you guys do, who you serve, and then we can get into the nitty gritty of this story of it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. So the company is Auris Tech, and we've actually built a voice recognition engine that works for children's voices in the context of reading in particular. And we've literally we had this idea some years ago that it would be brilliant to build some technology for children that could be used on an app that was more educational, because we realised back then that children would be using their tech more and more, but it wouldn't be doing educational things. So we came up with this idea of creating this application, which would be a reading platform where children would be able to go onto a platform and read out aloud. And that there would be some, at that time we didn't know what it would be, but there would be some indication that it was listening. The problem was the technology didn't exist. So what we thought we were building was an app, and what we actually ended up having to develop was the actual engine itself, the speech recognition engine.
What a journey that must have been, though, as well. From like you said, thinking you're going to build an app to actually realizing that this solution isn't even out there.
Exactly.
And you guys are the ones that are going to do that, which I love the stories like this. What was going on in your world then when you saw the need for this? Because usually, especially for a project like this, there seems to be a very poignant moment where you kind of go, I'm going to be the one that makes this happen.
Yeah. Well, at the time, actually, I had a different business. I had a software company, and was always working on other people's projects and other people's sort of making other people famous for certain things. And it was great, and it was brilliant. I had a nice team, but I've always felt that it would be really good to be able to do something ourselves. And this particular company and everything was motivated by the fact that I was out on a train journey with my 2-year-old grandson. He was 2 at the time, and on the way back he was getting a bit fractious, and I gave him my phone, and literally and I put YouTube on, put Chuggington on YouTube, his favourite thing, and at the end of it he literally swiped, and it was like, he can't string a sentence together.
But you can use an iPhone.
You can use an iPhone. It's crazy. And I was talking to my co-founder, Bill Bungay, who's a tremendous ad man, quite a well-known and famous ad man. And I was chatting to him over lunch and was telling him this story. And we'd always wanted to do a project together, known him for very many years. And we just came up over lunch saying, well, wouldn't it be amazing to build something that was educational, what we kind of dubbed edutainment at that time. And that's how it all began. But as we got into the project, and as we started to get, as I said, the technology didn't exist, that was the first thing. But the other most compelling thing that really motivated me with this was the fact that I've got a couple of dyslexic children, and for them, reading aloud was absolutely terrifying. Children that have, dyslexia isn't something you ever grow out of either. So even now, my daughter in her 30s struggles when it comes to, reading generally, and reading out loud, she, is quite terrifying for them. So I was very heavily motivated by the purpose. And I think that if you've got the motivation, if you've got the passion, then there's nothing you can't do without the budget and time.
Yeah. Definitely.
But always more time and more budget than you ever imagined.
Yeah. Always. It's whatever you think it's going to cost, double it. That sort of thing. For you, what were some of those challenges that you had to overcome along the way, especially I guess when you realize that, like we said earlier, that the tech wasn't there, and that you're creating almost a whole different business from the original idea?
Well, the challenge at the beginning is always getting the right people, isn't it? It's, for me, I'm not a developer. I mean, I'm an inventor, if you like, but I'm not a developer.
You're the fun bit. That's the thing.
Yeah. We've bootstrapping came played a very big part in the earlier days, and from time to time still does, but until you sort of really get out there and make it. But yeah, I think making sure that you've got the right people on the team, I think that's really important. And for us, that was pivotal when we were introduced to the University of Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And we were introduced to a Dr. Peter Bell at the university as part of he's one of their readers, actually, in the School of Informatics up in Edinburgh. And he is a world-renowned speech recognition expert. We went to him with our idea. We were introduced and said that we've got this idea, we think that this would actually work. And he looked at it and said, in my words, the idea was genius. And if we had developed it in a slightly different way, we'd have had, from our prototyping, we did some internal prototyping before we got to this stage. He said we'd have had a better accuracy level and we'd have had more success. And so that was pretty pivotal for us, really, realizing that, you've got to have the right people. And I've always been one where, if you're going to do something, do it properly, then you get the best people that you can.
Always. And when you got that team on board, what changed in the business? What changed in terms of the way that the business grew and I guess the speed of that as well?
Yeah, I suppose when you tell people that you're going to build something, I've got this, middle-aged woman that goes up to people and says, I'm building some speech technology.
Like, all right, Kim.
And,
all right.
Yeah, I can do this. And they say, yeah, of course you can, Kim. But I think, that pivotal point when it starts to work and you get your first, you get your first feedback, you get your first piece of tech that actually works. I remember that one moment. I remember I was in my kitchen when I got a development build sent over to me. I had a message saying, quick, check your emails. And there was a development build. And literally it was a word on a sentence on an iPad. And I actually read it and the words turned green. And, that was pretty pivotal for us. But I think in terms of the team, we started to build the team quite slowly. But I think when you start to get some wins like that, when you start to get some success where, you start to see things happening, then, attitudes change. But I'm quite good at getting people sort of, excited about stuff. Yeah. So I was very lucky that right from day one, when we couldn't afford certain people, they still were kind of involved and
you sold them the passion.
Absolutely absorbed in the passion. And so that was pretty changing, I guess, when we started to see things actually working.
Exactly. I mean, it's been quite a lot, I guess, a fairly long process. You mentioned before you started development 8 years ago, sort of the business was formed 6, and for some that's a long process, for some it's quite a short process. I guess it depends what you're developing.
For us, one of the reasons why it took so very long is to get an accurate speech recognition model, any kind of technology in speech, or a lot of this AI technology, you have to have the appropriate data. And the training data. So for us, that was literally a year-long road trip.
Wow.
All around the UK. So I literally had a team of data collectors, and we literally went. I think we went into about 40 schools across the whole of the UK, literally down, right into the bottom of Cornwall up to the Scottish Highlands. We did Ireland, we did Scotland, obviously Scotland, we did Wales, and we literally went into schools, spent 2 or 3 days in the schools just recording children reading. So part of the process was purely collecting that, it was the legwork.
Yeah. In that legwork bit then, I'm curious to know, when you went into the schools and you spoke to teachers, what was their view of it? Were they excited? Were they like, oh my God, we need this in our school right now because it's going to help us?
Well, actually, it was quite funny because one of the team, we had this idea, how do we get to children? And we realised that the best way to get to children was through schools.
Mm-hmm.
And we treated it a little bit like a sales campaign, like a campaign of winning a school. And so it was all literally about phoning hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of schools, and then getting, because it wasn't even for us that any schools, it wasn't like the first 100 schools. We were very, very strategic. We had to have a certain amount of schools. We had to have a certain amount of children recorded in different parts of the country. So it was a real mission. But those schools that were on board really, really got it. I mean, I think a lot of them, if you get a fairly progressive head that understands the importance of technology in the whole kind of
makes it a no-brainer.
But yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah. You mentioned about that moment in the kitchen where you got that email about that one sentence. How, if we fast forward in time when the product was formed and it was, I guess, let's say, ready to go to market, how did it feel when you got when it did go to market and you got the first people that, I guess, saw it for the first time without knowing the story of the development? And because I guess friends and family have obviously seen you develop and probably been some guinea pigs along the way, but how did it feel when that completely impartial person used it?
Well, it really was amazing, and still is, because I think there's still, for me, the biggest pleasure is to see children using the platform.
Yeah.
And I think that, I suppose, we got to a point where we could do a soft launch. Well, we didn't. Well, we got to a point where the app was live. We hadn't even really done much of a launch, I guess. And we started to. Our plan was that we were going to launch this summer. Mm-hmm. But of course, we went into lockdown, and so everything kind of changed. So the big sort of launch program and everything that we had changed, and it was just as simple as, well, look, let's just get this out there, and let's give it away to kids for free while the pandemic was on, while kids' schools, while schools were disrupted and children were at home. We figured that if ever there was a time when a virtual reading assistant was really valuable, it's right here and right now. And some of the feedback that we've got, from parents that have, emailed us, called us, some of the social media that we got back, and the feedback we got has been incredible, where, children have just said how amazing that it was and how much it's helped them improve their reading. It's just, that kind of, and it still is pretty crazy, really, when you realise how kids love it.
And is that one of your biggest motivations then, is seeing how it can transform, obviously, children's reading abilities and also just from the impact from that, isn't it? It's how they interact with the whole world.
Yeah. Listen, reading aloud is just such an important life skill. And I think people just underrate or undervalue how important being able to read aloud is. It's not just about, literacy. It's not just about the love of books. It's about, you and I are communicating now in a way that's made possible because we can read aloud, that we can, it's just such an important life skill. It's important when it comes to interviews. It's important when it comes to, just business, work, life, everything. It's just so important. Even just from a child being able to articulate well with their peers and with their parents and with their teachers, it's such an important life skill.
Yeah. And I guess with technology like yours that you've developed, it's also really beneficial in terms of, like, if we could put it on the mental health side, because I remember in primary school, I think, it was you stood up, you read to the class, which, looking back now, for some people, that must have been just like fear crippling for them. So I guess if they can develop themselves and develop their confidence with the ability of reading out loud and knowing they're doing it right as well.
Yeah, I think, well, that's the whole thing. I mean, the way that the app works, it literally, the child will go onto the app, they'll go onto Fonetti. The actual app is called Fonetti.
Yeah, we forgot about that.
So the app is Fonetti, Auris is the business. So kids will go onto Fonetti, choose a book from the library of books, and then they start to read aloud. And as they read aloud, the words change green when they get them right, and then they grey out if they either miss them or say them incorrectly. A quick double tap the app will then read the word for them or speak the word for them, and then they can repeat it, and then they can kind of follow through. And then at the end of every book, there's a fanfare and a well done, and there are stars depending on how accurate the child was. And so, the child always strives to get 3 stars, to get, the best amount of level of accuracy. And then there's fanfares, and there are rewards, and then there's a whole area of reporting, so they can see how long they've read for, how many times they've read the book, what their accuracy was. And then what some of the feedback that we've had from children that have gone through this experience has been quite interesting. I mean, we've interviewed loads of children after they've used the application, and one of the things that really, really surprised me, but has been said many times, is that it makes me feel brave.
Amazing.
It's crazy. And it's funny.
How great does that make you feel, though, when you hear a child say that to you?
Yeah, I know, it's pretty crazy. I'm pretty excitable anyway. I mean, when I something.
Oh, Kim, are you there? Come back to me, Kim. Come back. If you're watching this live or listening to this on the podcast, Kim has currently experienced some technical issues. So let me see if I can get her back for us, and we can carry on with this amazing interview. Let me see. Hold on. Let me add her back to the stream. Oh, she's back.
Sorry.
Kim is back in the house.
I'm back in the house. Sorry about that.
We'll just blame your husband. It's fine.
Yeah, blame him. I need another shilling in the meter. And what's been quite funny is one of my team members who joined the team, she's our marketing manager, she joined the team just as we went to lockdown. And she's got children, a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. And I know that, when a marketing manager talks about how brilliant a product is, you expect them to. But genuinely speaking, her little daughter, who turned 5 over the weekend, literally throughout lockdown, her reading has gone from literally sort of, very, very, very young books, with 2, phonics books, to the point where she's kind of reading books at sort of, level 4 and level 5 and level 6.
Amazing.
And she says the only difference has been Fonetti. That's the only thing that's changed, since they've been in lockdown and
That's incredible.
So on. But can I tell you, we're kicking off a campaign.
Go on.
Next year, I've got this ambition.
Is this one of those things when we it's like earlier, we're like, oh, Kim's at it again.
Yeah.
She's off on it. She's got another idea.
Right. So let me say, we are so lucky that we have managed to capture the attention of the amazing Claire Balding, and she's our brand ambassador. I was introduced to her a couple of years ago, and she's just crazy. She's just amazing. She's just like
she's a powerful person in terms of energy.
She is incredible. And she said right at the beginning, the reason that she got involved with us, because she must get asked to do things like this quite often. Yeah. And she said that she's always wanted to be involved with something that's got the potential to change the world. And she feels that this is it. And, that's a direct quote from her. Anyway, I've always felt that, I've always had this sort of can-do attitude. And so about 4 weeks ago, I woke up and I thought, what I'm going to do? If I could get a dozen personalities and celebrities to read books from our platform that we could then socialise, and in return, we would donate Fonetti to an entire primary school in their name. So I thought, what about if we were to, rustle up some people through our connections? Anyway, I can't say exactly who they are at the moment because it's all a little bit sort of
hush.
Of a reveal. It's all coming. But literally from the 12 days of Christmas, from Christmas Day, we've got a well-known celebrity reading a book from the platform and then sharing that out. And for every one of those celebrities, we are giving the platform to an entire school, because not only have we got the Fonetti for home use, we've also got a full school platform for it, which allows teachers to be able to share books with whole classes or with individuals, but then they get all of the reporting. They can see how long they've read for, how accurate they were. So it's a really good reading platform. So that was the one thought. And then I thought, well, actually, that's great, because that will get us into close to 4,000 children.
Wow.
I thought, what about if we have an ambition? How about if we try to get the platform into the hands of 500,000 children in 2021? So I kind of chatted to them all and said, what about if we kind of create this campaign, which is like, feed the mind around getting into things. So we've actually kicking off this campaign. It's our ambition jointly to get these books into the hands of 500,000 children next year. And we've got various corporates and lots of people sort of, supporting that and sponsoring that. And we're obviously sponsoring and supporting it ourselves. So
amazing. What an incredible achievement this time next year when you will have achieved that.
I know.
Because I very much doubt I feel like you're fairly unstoppable, Kim. But one thing I want to know from you as a person, how do you focus your time? Because like you said, you're like the inventor, and I know from other inventors I've spoken to that your brains kind of work at 101 miles an hour. There's so many ways that we can do, so many things we can do. So how do you make sure that you're focused on the right thing, you're moving at the right direction? How do you sort of, I guess, sense check yourself as well in that process?
I have a really good team. I'm
Simply put.
I tell you, I'm completely unmanageable. So I have a really good exec team. I have a really good sort of CPO, a good head of product, a good COO, and a really good board and a really good executive team, and our head of content. Everyone is really focused, and that's really good because they all allow me to be able to be a little bit batty and a little bit creative and come up with these crazy ideas. I mean, when I've got a fabulous marketing manager, and I literally, that idea when I said to her sort of 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm going to get 12 celebrities to read books from our platform. And she said, well, is that a little bit ambitious, do you think? I went, and there we are. I mean, literally, within 2 weeks, I've got 12 celebrities signed up. So I'm pretty unstoppable.
Has that always been the case? Have you always been this unstoppable force? Or is it because obviously you're so linked to Fonetti and the purpose and the reasoning behind it is such a fantastic one? Do you think that helps as well?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, every day, if you wake up, work is a really, really important, and it takes up a lot of our time. And I'm sure, looking at what you've done and your background, Steve, you're also motivated by what you do and the difference that you make to people.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can wake up every day and know that what you're doing does make a difference and what you're doing is being used, I think that's the most key thing. Whether or not it makes a difference is, secondary, I suppose, to is it being used. All inventors, all developers, everybody wants to know that, if you're broadcasting, you want to know that people are listening to you. If you're putting a product out there, you want to know that people are using it. And I think that if you know that what you're doing has got the ability to make people happy and help them with, whatever they're doing, then why wouldn't you get up every morning and be totally motivated by it?
Exactly, 100% agree with this. I mean, you kind of just let me in on a little secret in terms of your big plan next year. But what else do you have in store for you as a person as well, but also the business itself? What's next in store for that?
So we were very fortunate this year that our technology, we managed to get the patent granted for our technology.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was a really big thing for us. I mean, securing the patent was pretty crazy, really. And it's a relatively wide patent, and it's not limited to child speech. So the next development that we are going to be working on is a development for stroke patients, completely unrelated to sort of kids and literacy. But if you can imagine a platform where somebody with stroke patients, speech and the cognitive behaviour and the speech and everything is a really, really important part of your rehabilitation. But also, you want to be able to do things independently. So the ability to have a platform where you've got the right kind of content that somebody could read aloud to. And can you imagine if you read it one week and it says, well done, your accuracy was 52% this week, and last week it was 43%. you know, you can practice and so on. It's all about having the right content and having, you know, having the right.
Well, it's the achievements, isn't it, that helps so much in terms of brain development, no matter what stage they're at.
So we've already started to scope and start that. But then our other ambitions are more global, really. I mean, we started our data collection in India. So if you think that literacy is a problem in the UK, then you only have to magnify that by many times to understand what it's like. And, you know, and it's not just about literacy, it's about learning English as well, India and Africa and so on. So we started data collection in India. We're just about to embark on a partnership where we're collecting data in Australia and New Zealand. But that's really, that's also very, very important.
Incredible.
For us to get it out there. I mean, and just to put some context into the place that we're in, when you think about it and when you realise that 1 in 9 children in the UK don't own a book.
Wow.
You know, 200,000 children leave school in the UK every year not having reached the right, you know, what the expected level for reading for their age.
Yeah. Is that what age is that? Is that leaving primary school or high school?
With primary school, they'd leave primary school. 200,000 children leave primary school, not reaching the expected level for reading. So, you know, anything that we can do that makes reading more interesting to some kids. I mean, there are some children, you know, that will pick up a book naturally and just love to read all of the time. And there are others that, you know, really, really struggle, especially little boys. Little boys aren't always the best at picking up reading. And, you know, we're not competing with books. When you look at Fonetti, we're not competing with books, we're competing with apps.
Yeah.
You know, kids are on their tablets all the time. They're not reading, they're playing games and watching videos.
But this is why this is so great, because you saw how people are interacting with the world now, and you've developed a solution that fits in with that, instead of which I feel like a lot of businesses try and do, and they try and go, hey, why don't you come and use our thing over here, and make the entry to usage so hard, whereas you guys have just broke down the barriers to be like, download the app, use it and learn.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fantastic. Kim, listen, my final question for you is, how can people find out more about you? How can people find out more about the tech business and Fonetti?
Well, they can go onto Fonetti.com, which will hopefully show them anything that they need to know about Fonetti. Obviously, go to the App Store and download Fonetti and try it for yourself. We're still giving Fonetti out for free for 3 months for those kids that want to use it, purely because we feel it was, you know, the right thing to do, and it creates the awareness and it just gives them a little bit of a help. I'm Kim Antoniou. I'm on LinkedIn, of course, in terms of or on Twitter, if anyone wants to reach out to me. Also, if there's anytime that feels that, you know, I can do anything to help them with their journey, or share any experiences with her, I'm always happy to do that. I am blessed with having a few amazing people that are my go-to people as well. So I think it's all about sharing. It's a sharing community, isn't it? Now,
100%. And I think the more that we have that support network, the team around us,
so important,
we're just setting ourselves up for much greater success.
We really are.
Which is fantastic. Kim, thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait to see you this time next year when you've achieved your goal, and reached that many children and helped them just develop and effectively, you know, pivoted their lives for a lot of them.
Well, perhaps you'll invite me back and we can talk about it.
Well, yeah, definitely. Kim, thank you so much. And thanks everyone else for listening and watching. This has been Founders 365.
Thank you so much.